and welcome back to Book and Page, Euripides the Bacchae. We finished up with the prologue, so we're on to scene 1, and we're actually going to meet some human characters that aren't godly fangirls. Or so they seem. Okay, so scene 1 begins with the blind prophet Dionysus calling for the old king, Cadmus. He's no longer king. He's the original founder. He's given the kingship to his grandson, Pentheus. But hey, Cadmus, let's go. And Cadmus comes out and he's just like, I thought that was you, Tiresias. Let's go. So they've dressed up in deerskins and ivy, and they're off to join Dionysus' dancing and drinking party, because they recognize that Dionysus is in fact a god, and they should join in the festivities, even though they're old. And really, they mention that they're old several times, but they also mention they're the only men of Thebes who are heading out. So then we have Pentheus enter. And he's complaining about the fact that, you know, all of the women of Thebes are running wild. They're pretending to be mad, he says. It's pretending. They really just want to be out there so they can have a lot of sex. He says it's Aphrodite they put first. So he thinks they're all out there to have sex. Which is funny because if it's true that, like, none of the Theban men are going out, who are the women having sex with? Because we get the idea that the chorus is supposed to be relatively all-female. And, I mean, there's Dionysus in his human form, but that's about it, so... So, Pentheus is complaining about all these women wanting to have sex, that he started trying to catch them and put them all in jail. But the one he really wants to get is the feminine-looking foreigner, which is Dionysus in disguise. So Pentheus then sees his grandfather Cadmus and the blind prophet Tiresias all dressed up and laughs at them, because it's funny. They look silly. They're old men. Go back inside. So Tiresias tells him off, and he gives us a bit of an expanded version of the Dionysus creation myth that attempts to explain sewed up in the thigh with a piece of the sky. It's a little weird, but yay! And every time that Tiresias defends Cadmus and him going out, the chorus very helpfully says, "Yay, Tiresias! Yay, Tiresias!" So then Cadmus also encourages Pentheus to join them, but instead Pentheus rejects that and actually orders the guards to trash Tiresias' house and to capture the disguised Dionysus. Because that's the logical way of doing all of this. So Cadmus and Tiresias decide they're going to go dance anyways, because Pentheus is in the wrong. And the scene ends with the chorus exchange that makes that very clear to us. Pentheus is wrong! So, short little scene, but certainly an interesting one, because we've now met 3 important characters who have talked with each other, but have not yet interacted directly with, we're supposing, Dionysus. The chorus is here. The chorus thinks Tiresias knows what he's doing. So, we have to sort of parse out why these 3 characters are in the position and have the understanding that they have. Like, why are the 2 old dudes who repeat several times that they are in fact very old, the ones who realize what's happening and are just like, let's go dancing before we get struck down? I think Tiresias is obviously the one that we can answer relatively easily, because he's a blind prophet. And both of those work to his advantage. Let's start with the blindness, because the prophet one is more obvious, but the blindness is certainly an interesting one, because it's really played off of Pentheus, particularly in this scene. And again, Euripides is real sure to make sure we know this guy's blind, because Cadmus says it several times, and Cadmus is the one who's just like, look, my grandson Pentheus is coming, because also that's a real good introduction for us. So, again, Tiresias has some connection to the audience there, with he's the tool that lets Cadmus go, look, my grandson Pentheus is coming, without seeming super obnoxious. And also, again, they can have the discussion about how we're going to get up into the mountain. So the blindness one acts like a connector between the audience and the character. So we can get some information because Tiresias needs some information. But interestingly enough, it also means that he's not seeing the mortal version of things. Like, Pentheus isn't willing to see the powerful aspects of Dionysus because he just sees the human form of Dionysus. And particularly the very feminine aspects of the human form of Dionysus. Tiresias doesn't have that problem. He's not going to see this human form. He's simply going to hear the rites happening, and this person leading the rites, hey, he's not judging that book by its cover, is he? He's not judging it by the human form. So, his other senses are being the thing that he's working off of. He's not going to be fooled by mundane-seeming things. That guy looks like a real girly. So obviously, he's not serious trouble. That's not going to be how Tiresias is thinking, because he's just going to be hearing this person going, he knows a whole lot about these rites. I wonder who I should listen to about these rites. And that's really interesting to have that played up against Pentheus, because Pentheus is the one in power, of course. And Pentheus is blinded by his ability to see. Tiresias doesn't have that problem. He's not risking anything by making a snap judgment on how things look. He's got to think a little more than that, because he can't see. He's also got that prophet name attached to him. And again, Euripides, like several times, we're not just hearing from Tiresias, I'm a blind prophet. Cadmus talks about him being blind. Look, my grandson Pentheus is coming. I'm just going to keep doing that. I'm enjoying it. But Pentheus also makes reference to the fact that Tiresias is a prophet when he orders his seat of prophecy to be torn up along with the rest of his house. Yeah, asshole. Don't do that. Don't do that. So, as a prophet, again, he's got a sort of connection to the gods that other people don't have. Or few other people don't have. And in fact, this is why we start getting him paired with the chorus. He says something prophetic of nature, like this discussion about the thigh and the sky discussion, and the chorus. We're getting that reinforced. These two groups are connecting because they have this otherworldly connection in common, and so they know what's going on. And in fact, the chorus references that they're aware of the feelings of other gods as well, because they say Apollo would not be angry at this argument that you make, Tiresias. So we've got, like, these two human but supernatural-esque groups that are connecting with each other, and they're all saying something very clearly. Pentheus is wrong! So Tiresias, we can understand. He doesn't care that he's an old man going out to dance. He can't see how silly he looks. He can't see how feminine Dionysus looks. He's got a connection with the gods, and that connection's telling him to respect the gods. We can understand why Tiresias is just like, we're going up to the mountain and we're gonna dance. But why is Cadmus doing this? because he can see, look, my grandson Pentheus is coming. But he does have some connection to the gods. Thebes apparently started when Pentheus was ordered by the gods to take the teeth of a dragon that he killed and sew them into the ground so that men sprung out of it. So there is some trust in the gods there. He's seen some godly powers. His daughter got struck down for some reason. And that's sort of the moment of doubt. He's seen godly powers, but when you don't quite know... But Cadmus is lucky, because Cadmus doesn't have the advantages of Tiresias, but he does in fact have Tiresias. Tiresias, we see, he's the one that calls Cadmus to come out, to leave the ordinary world and step into the weird, godly affected world where wine and milk are spraying from rocks and the women have gone mad. And Cadmus goes to Tiresias. Cadmus trusts Tiresias enough to go to him. They've made this plan prior to this point, but Cadmus is keeping to it, and he comes out, supposedly just from the description, he comes out in his fawn skins and his ivy. Like, let's do it! I'm ready to dance! Because he trusts the knowledge his friend has. He trusts in Tiresias enough not to trust his own eyes, not to trust his grandson, but to trust his old friend Tiresias, the blind prophet. That's really important, because that is a type of faith that Cadmus is displaying here, that has then extended further, because that faith is extended to his dead daughter Semele, that yes, she did sleep with Zeus, and then it extends to his godly grandson Dionysus and the other gods. Cadmus is displaying extensive amounts of faith that start at a very personal place. His friendship with Tiresias, and these men are very close friends. They go out arm in arm. They guide each other. Cadmus will guide places where you need to be able to see, but he trusts Tiresias to guide him in places that cannot be seen. He trusts Tiresias to guide him in his faith of the gods and his recognition of them. And this is played up extensively against Pentheus and his lack of faith. This entire first scene, despite not having any godly presence in it, is filled with godly presence in the faith of the characters, or the lack of faith of them. Cadmus has changed his belief. He believes now his daughter's story and his family's connection to the gods, and he will celebrate that connection. Pentheus refuses. He is the counterpoint to both Cadmus's faith and Tiresias's vision, because he doesn't have clear vision and he operates honestly in bad faith. Not even just a lack of faith, but in bad faith. He has no concept of where he is in the world. He has no concept of respect to the elders, respect to the gods, or respect to those who have connections with the gods. And we see this with the fact that he's willing to laugh at his own grandfather. I mean, honestly, even if you don't want to go dancing yourself, I would be the first one to be like, Grandpa, you want to go dancing? Cool, do you need a ride? But there's no respect there. no respect for the fact that he used to be a king, no respect for Tiresias as a prophet, and again, active bad faith in destroying Tiresias' seat of prophecy. You don't do that. You don't do that at all. Those with faith in the gods go dancing. And they trust in the gods not to be led astray without reason. And in fact, Tiresias defends this. Pentheus claims that all of these women running in the woods are there because they want to have a lot of sex. But Tiresias says, if they're women of virtue who don't want to have sex in the first place, the madness doesn't force them to. If they are interested in sex as an object, sure, drinking and dancing might lead to something else. It's a celebration. But if you honestly aren't interested in it, the madness will not lead you astray in that way. And that's, again, having faith in the gods, that if you have made the right choices, you will not be led astray. But when you try and either distance yourself from the gods or reject them entirely, you suddenly do have a reason to be afraid. If you believe in the gods and you trust in the gods, you have faith, then suddenly things like this madness become less frightening. Just as a lot of people find comfort from the idea of death in their own religions. They have faith that they will be taken care of even over a very frightening thing. But for Pentheus, who doesn't have faith, this madness is a frightening thing. It's the creation of feelings that people shouldn't have. It's the creation of unnatural things like milk and wine from very natural spaces. And for somebody without the faith, that is frightening. That's not normal. And you're not thinking about the idea that the gods make it normal. Tiresias and Cadmus, this isn't going to be a frightening thing because the gods make it normal and we recognize the gods. Pentheus is scared. He's trying to act like he's not, but the fact that he feels he has to chain up all of these women, that he has to take out this foreigner who is very attractive to him, those are responses to a fear that if I don't regain control now, no control will be regained. A lot of people, especially with these festivals, are aware that these festivals end, and then people will return to normal then. The fact that Pentheus is trying to force an end to this festival says that he's scared it won't end, or he's scared of what will happen in that time. He is acting not just in a lack of faith, but in bad faith. And we could see this in his derision not only of Dionysus, but also of Aphrodite. He doesn't celebrate the love that Aphrodite brings. He actively derides it. The prophet chair of Tiresias, and in his actions against that, none of these are good things. The fact that he's trying to actively attack and suppress the Bacchic mysteries. Pentheus is acting out of his own power range to try and gain control of things he should not have control of, because he is scared of those things. Which means, in a lot of ways, he's already lost. Because if he had the faith necessary, he would not be as afraid. Which is, again, something that we need to consider. How do we feel about the need for faith, or at least not acting in bad faith, and its connection to fear? Are we ourselves afraid of what's actually happening in the Bacchae? Are we ourselves afraid of the power of the gods? Are we ourselves afraid of madness? So, a lot of questions, less so for the characters, but more so for us. The chorus is really here to say Pentheus is wrong. But we need to be here asking, how do we feel about the fact that Pentheus is wrong? Are we Cadmus and Tiresias? Or are we Pentheus? I'm going to keep reading, and I hope you do too. See you next time.